Hi everybody, welcome back to another edition of Girls with Voices Podcast. Today I'm your host Roly and I'm joined by my hot babe Hazel.
Period.
And my pretty girl Chantal. And in today's episode we're going to be dissecting influencers and their influence in our lives. So guys, to get started, what is an influencer? What do you guys think an influencer is?
Well, if I should say in modern day, an influencer is anyone who has followers, either on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as long as you give us what we want to see.
Someone, with basically influence.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say too, that someone who basically has influence. But if you ask the AMA 2K, it's not the same. It's not the same vibe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Like also for me, like when I think influencer, I don't think generally anyone who has an influence in your life, but we immediately think of your IG baddies, TikTok famous, Instagram famous, etc. So I feel like when we say influencer, those are the people we immediately think of, and probably those are the people we'll be talking about today, right?
Yes.
So guys, okay, now tell me the types of influencers that you know. What vibes do they give? Like, how would they impact, the day-to-day life of a child, like constantly consuming their content, viewing them, etc.?
I think the first thing you mentioned was a baddie. Like when we think of influencers, that's the basic idea, right? A baddie. But I feel like the problem with that is that everyone in our generation is trying to match that. Basically, we've set our standards to what influencers are. So success to us is being determined by influencers. Success looks exactly the clothes, everything basically is being determined by an influencer.
I like that she raised that type of influencer. The people who give us the aesthetics, their body goals, money goals, like
slim
they just
waist.
seem exactly slim waist, big old booty, and those are the people we, as young people consuming that content, aspire to be. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Chantal? Like with our IG baddies, do you think like there's a positive impact on the girls, the young ladies who are viewing their content, consuming whatever they are putting out onto the internet?
Well, personally, I feel like our other counterparts out there have associated the word influence with what I believe suits my lifestyle, right? So it's more like it's that type of situation whereby our other counterparts out there, even us ourselves, right, we want to associate influence with what's trending out there, right? Regardless of the kind of influence that it actually reflects,
they are genuinely speaking, especially aesthetic influencers. We find that most of them don't even show us their genuine lives. They are giving us a fake life because that's what they believe people want to see. That's what they believe has influence in the world. It's always so crazy when you find out that person who was flexing a Birkin bag and you're like, oh my, I don't want to work so hard and buy a Birkin bag, to find out that they are renting the Birkin bag after you set your standards so high. It's literally ludicrous at the end of the day. So I feel like the most common type of influencer will be the aesthetic influencer when it comes, generally to the internet. But another interesting one is relationship goals. You see people out there popping with their booze. And that's another type of influencer that's really trending. What do you guys think? Do you have your favorite influencers that are couple goals doing the most?
Milo and Hazel, I would say.
Okay, go off. Can you see? Do you think though their lives are aspirable or like attainable, or are they projecting a life that is so far-fetched that for the normal human being in a relationship you cannot possibly be doing all that they're doing, like the dates every weekend, surprises, the flower bouquets. Guys, have you guys seen the flower bouquets?
Yes, we have.
I know
The
that
ones with the money.
with the money wrapped around the roses. Can you see? I don't. Do you? have anything to say about relationship goals?
Well, I feel like it's so sad that we associate influence to more on the negative side. We actually have positive influences in our lives here in Zimbabwe, local influencers. I don't know if you guys have heard of Yaya and Mponda Shuka. Those people that are like pushing positive relationship vibes, and as much as they also do the roses with flowers, but I think they actually portray the positive to influence, because we actually see their real life, their actual life, what they wake up to do every day. We know their hustle. They don't sell to us what we want to see, but they sell to us what is real, not fake life.
Like, I really agree that, you know, sometimes it's very important to have positive images of love, especially black love, whereby we've seen so many, especially in like the black community, relationships falling apart, scandals, or there always being drama in a relationship. So sometimes it's really refreshing, you know, to watch two people genuinely love each other, and there's no problem in aspiring for that, as long as, you know, it's healthy, you're not doing too much or ending up hurting yourselves and the people that you love in order to be quote-unquote relationship goals. Your relationship goals regardless, okay? Your life is goals regardless. So guys, the next type of goals that I want, especially for young people like you and I, academic goals, the people that are getting the straight A's, always posting their grades, you know. They got a scholarship where they are studying abroad. You know, everything seems to be going smoothly for them when it comes to academics. So would you guys say that type of influencer should be better, you know, received by young people as compared to the others? Do you support maybe an academic influencer more than an aesthetic influencer, you know?
Well, personally, I feel like academic influencers are really crucial, considering the AMA 2K revolution. You know, we are more focused on making it in life, regardless of how you really make it in life, you know. So we define influence so much to the negative side more than to the positive side. So at the end of the day, you find our other counterparts out there pushing ama relationship goals more than ama academical goals, you know. So at the end of the day, you don't really have anything tangible that you can say, okay, I have this to show that I've made it in life, but you actually have a fake life that you attained, well, on social media platforms, because people love what you are doing, but then what do you have to hold for yourself and say, okay, I've actually achieved this?
And I genuinely think that academic influencers don't get as much attention as they should.
They don't get as much
like
rep.
if you look at anyone's Instagram feed, the first people to pop up on their Instagram, you know, you've got your Kimberly Richards, you know, all these big names, right? But you don't actually have someone, you know, like there's people like Vika Tivu. Those are influential women doing the most academically.
In the academic
so
space.
It's like they are more motivating, because we can relate to them. Majority of teenagers right now are in the academic sector. It directly impacts us, but sadly it's not the most popular sort of information.
Like, we'd never see an academic influencer trending for anything on Twitter.
We wouldn't.
Than, you know, our aesthetic influencers.
Outdated.
Okay, so but I just wanted to ask you guys, like as young people, you know, AMA 2K as they like to say, would you say that influencers have had a negative or a positive influence in your life? Has their impact been more on the good side, the bad side, or is it like a mix of both?
Well, I feel like it's more of a mix of both, but then when we consider the naked truth of life, I feel like influence is more on the negative side of our lives, because we no longer consider life as it used to be before we had the influencers impacting on our lives. We used to have, for example, family time, you know the value of your family, but then with influencers you forget where you come from, your roots. Why? Because there's another type of lifestyle that you're aiming at, there's another type of person that you want to become, you know. So I feel like we're losing our identity all in the name of being influencers, all in the name of being influenced by influencers, you know.
And can you see, like what you're saying, that people are now aspiring so much to be other people, so much that you're constantly in competition with someone you've never met before. In as much as it may push you maybe to be better or do better, you always for some, and I feel like this is for most people, maybe I'm wrong, you guys can tell me, but you always feel like you're coming up short as compared to your peers. Oh, so and so is my age, they have like 50k followers on Instagram because they go to the gym every day. So and so just got 50k scholarship to go study in Australia, and I'm currently studying so hard to pass and do well in my O-levels, A-levels, but I am not getting the same results that they are getting. So at the end of the day, it really hits your self-esteem that I'm putting in the work but I'm not getting the same results as the other person.
Yeah, and I think generally the issue with influencers, I think it's part and parcel. There are positives, like there's someone who doesn't sleep at night, working for those goals, which is positive. But then there's the negatives in the sense that it's selling maybe an unrealistic goal sometimes that people shouldn't achieve for. Like if you look at majority of our generation or young women, right, they're judging or basing their success on a particular individual, like you were saying. But then I believe that success at the end of the day is personal. You decide whether your success to you would be teaching at a local school. Exactly, for every single person. But then with influencers, I think it shadows that. And I think one thing that people tend to forget is that at the end of the day, influencers are doing it for their own monetary gain.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, they're pushing a product, right? It doesn't really necessarily mean that it's perfect for them or they use it. Even when it comes to the body products and all that, there's the skincare ranges and whatnot. So because Natasha Tahane publicizes Garnier doesn't mean that she actually uses it herself and it will work the same way for you. So to an extent, it overshadows our viewpoints as girls and as women, and I think those are some of the negatives.
So much, especially like what you're saying, that it becomes very much an economic push factor for influencers whenever they are making content, selling content. Just know that behind each and every post they had to curate it in a way whereby it aligns with their brand, and there's always product placement. So when you're like, oh my word, I want to have clear skin like so and so, I'm going to use this product. That girl probably has an esthetician, a dermatologist on rotation to make sure that her skin is clear every single time, and she's selling to you this one product saying that it helped me. That's probably not going to be accurate. So I agree that you need to take everything with a grain of salt, like pick and choose, like have the right discernment to pick and choose what could work for you, and the ability. I feel like in today's age, when you're using social media, you need to have the third eye to see beyond the lens, to see that, okay, this was staged, this was probably reshot 3-4 times to get the perfect shot, to get the perfect angle. And also with influencers, especially when we started talking about the capitalization and the economic factors behind it, don't you guys feel like there is a cookie cutter model of an influencer? Like, we all know, if we think influencer right now, we all thought of the same skin type, we all thought of the same body type, we all thought of the same general region of work or expertise. So would you guys say that like there's a certain subsection of our community with the ability and the looks to be an influencer?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's overshadowed with the basic standards set by influencers, right? When you think influencers, you think perfect body.
So they set the standard for themselves.
So they set the standard, and basically majority of people who could have the opportunity or the best results to be influencers aren't getting that position because of maybe how they look or things like that. So there's
you don't have the hourglass body to be an influencer. You don't have the right skin tone to be an influencer. You see.
Well, I also feel like I also support what Hazel said, so influence is mainly associated with content creation, so it's more like a standard that has been set. For you to be able to make it in this lifetime, you have to create this type of content, you have to amplify this certain viewpoint about today's society. So I feel like people have defined influence as a trend instead of actually considering influence to be impact,
people's life. So like they are not really being they're not doing it, to be impactful, to help people's lives to be better, but because everyone now wants to be an influencer these days, so everyone is going to
expectations.
Capital. And also, especially when you mentioned capitalizing, don't you think influencers capitalize on our insecurities?
Yes, they do, definitely. Like Pons would sell you even tone through through someone who's maybe colored or an influencer who's lighter skinned and whatnot, because they want to sell you a dream. But I think that's stealing away from authenticity at the end of the day. The reason why everyone is diverse and different is because we're different in that diversity. So at the end of the day, with influencers, it's selling a certain product, a certain type of a person, and every woman, every girl is aspiring to be that.
Yeah, that's so true. It's all about faking it till you make it. At the end of the day, you're fake.
Those fake lifestyles are going to be the death of us, because most of the influencers themselves aren't even living the life they are portraying.
Exactly.
Which is honestly scary if people start trying, to aspire so much for that life. So guys, there's this phenomenon. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but it's called parasocial relationships, whereby you develop a bond and a relationship with an influencer so much that in your mind you guys are basically friends. You know everything about them. Or when they wake up, they have a smoothie from Yanaya. They hit the gym at this time. This is what they do. So parasocial relationships, have you guys heard about them, or should I explain further?
No, please explain further.
Okay. So with parasocial relationships, at the end of the day, right, it's now you living vicariously through this influencer so much that it's taking away time from your own life. You spend so much time consuming their content, following their life, that you don't actually go and live your own life. You see, and this is where we also even find the cases of people being so obsessed with influencers, stalking them, following them across the country for their events, because you and her, in your mind, you guys are chummies, you guys are buddies. She doesn't even know you, she doesn't know you exist. To her, you're just a statistic, a figure. When she looks at her posts at the end of the day, you're just a number to her, but to you, you've developed such a strong bond. So can you also see that it has negative impacts in the way that it's now pulling from the actual relationships you could be having in your life, because you are so invested in influencers rather than being invested in your friends who are actually there for you, in your family, etc.
Yes. Funny enough that you'd actually say that. Recently I was watching this funny documentary where it talks about how basically influencers wake up at 6 o'clock, prepare their cameras and everything like that, and they wake up from the blankets again. But they woke up hours before.
They set up the camera,
exactly.
They hop
back into the bed, and
get into the blankets, the alarm rings.
And so you invest your life into someone else's, but for them it's a job or work sort of. So they are
set up
putting
everything
the effort,
to be perfect. You're not going to see their struggles. You're not going to see them on a bad hair day, because they won't film on that day. They won't take pictures on that day. So in your mind, oh my word, so and so is so perfect. Her life is going so well for her.
Exactly.
She's so put together. She has everything going for her. No, girl,
she wakes up pretty.
Was angles. That was makeup. That was her choosing the perfect day.
True.
So guys, thank you so much for this conversation. I don't know, do you guys have any last remarks? Anything else to add before we close off?
Well, I just wanted to add on what you mentioned, right? You'll find people having fan pages on social platforms, so it actually affects your mental health, because somehow you just end up taking drastic movements, and you end up, even the hairstyles, you discover the things we do, the way we dress, the way we act, it's because of what we see on social media platforms.
So guys, now the question is, how much have you been influenced in your life? Have you been influenced positively, negatively? After hearing this podcast, do you think that you may be taking steps maybe to reduce the amount of power people have over your life? Or will you be consuming more content from influencers, because you know what it goes is going to be you this year, no matter what. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Till next time, goodbye from us.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.